What's going on, guys, and welcome to the Midwest Outdoors Podcast, episode 3, and they're still letting me do it, so we're gonna keep on rolling. Guys, it's been a great week. We took a trip, and I can't wait for you guys to have a little insight on that trip. In fact, that is our main guest this week, as we visited Nate Herman down at the Giant Goose Ranch, and we caught tons of fish. We had our buddy Chris Grow join us. Noah Herman, this young man, 16 years old, he can take the best pictures and he can catch them. It was an awesome time down there, and I can't wait to show you guys some of what we learned while we were down there. We're also going to be joined by Brian Partak, the MLF Invitational Fisherman, and Joe Henry, the man behind Lake of the Woods Tourism. And he's got tons of information about one of the largest bodies of water in North America. And I can't wait to talk to him and share some of that. But let's get into the news, and we'll talk about what's left for the show later. Now, we're a little light on the news this week, guys, but I do want to hit a couple things for you. iCast. Remember that thing we did in July and we talk about occasionally? You know those baits we've been doing in the product review? Well, they are hitting the shelves. That's right. Some of the early releases of the baits from iCast are coming out right now, and you guys can get your hands on them. So check out your online dealers or your storefronts and look for those baits. I cannot get away from this forward-facing sonar debate. It's all over social media. It's all over YouTube. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is been major advancements in technology recently, especially when it comes to our sonar and our graphs. So now you have the ability to watch what your bait is doing and what the fish are doing in return. It's like playing a video game, especially when it comes for vertical jigging or when you're casting into a school of fish. Don't even get me started on the muskie, because it's like a submarine starts rolling in on your screen. It's pretty entertaining. But anyways, the debate is about if it should be legal. If it should be legal for tournament fishing, if it should be utilized for catching fish and keeping them. So I think what it comes down to, guys, is there's just been a lot more fish caught, and people are seeing the fish now. But just because you see it doesn't mean you can catch it. I would know firsthand. I've stared at these fish a bunch and haven't caught any of them. But it really does help you eliminate water, right? You can see where there's no fish at all. You can see where the structure starts, where the transitions begin. All different tactics and information that the sonar can give to you that you never had before. So if you ask me, I don't think it's going anywhere. Now for the tournaments, that might happen. For next year, I think we're safe. I don't think anything's happening next year. But Bassmaster has started calling pros and getting surveys on what they believe should happen with it. Should it stay year-round? Should they only use it during smallmouth tournaments? Or should they banish it all together? That's yet to be seen. I think we'll give it another year or two and see how this technology advances before they do anything about it. That's really all I got on the news, but I do want to remind you guys that speaking of new things, we always have new stuff coming out of the doors at Midwest Outdoors. Whether it's our social media on Instagram or Facebook, or on our YouTube or our TV show, check them all out. And if you like a good email, we have a new newsletter coming out that I think will blow your guys' mind. It has all of the new information from the industry, great products. There's even some cartoons in there to laugh at. So I think you guys will enjoy that. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I think I have to also. This week, The Meat Eater Season 11 dropped, guys. It is one of my favorite shows when I'm not watching Midwest Outdoors. So check that out if you want some more hunting and outdoors material to watch this weekend. But from the news, we will swing into the records, because when someone catches a record fish, that's news to me. And I think you guys enjoy it. So this week, we have 2 new records. We're going to go first to the East Coast and check out another saltwater record. This past week, a young man by the name of Connor Stone of North Carolina caught a pudding wife wrasse. That's right, a pudding wife wrasse, which, as you guys can see in the picture here, is a beautiful, vibrant fish. And it was weighed in at 3 pounds, 11 ounces, which beat the previous record of 3 pounds, 8 ounces that was caught down in Key West, Florida. And as you guys can see from this fish, it really looks like it should be on the Great Barrier Reef or somewhere down in Florida. So it's really cool, I think, and surprising probably to this angler that caught it in North Carolina, some colder water. Now from North Carolina, we take a trip down to Texas where we talk about Art Weston. If you guys have never heard of Art Weston, all this guy does is break limits. He breaks records and he challenges himself. He's known for catching giant fish on light line. Well, this time he broke another record. He caught an alligator gar that weighed 251 pounds. That's a 7.5-foot fish in fresh water that looks like a shark. If you guys have never seen an alligator gar, they are things that fuel nightmares, okay? Giant snouts, giant teeth. And if you guys see all the fish that Art caught, you can go down the line forever and look at all these big fish. He's using different rods, different line. He's catching giant fish all the time. So I don't even know what record this is for Art, but Art, congrats on another state record and working on another line class world record. Absolutely incredible. So guys, from there we're going to transition to the tournament wrap-up. And we have a pretty stout tournament wrap-up this week. Now, the big boys, the pros are done, but that doesn't mean that a lot of other things aren't going on in the industry. So let's talk about, not the bass pros, but let's start with the walleye pros. First, I want to give a happy anniversary, a 40th anniversary to the MWC, the Master Walleye Circuit. They celebrated their 40th anniversary by throwing yet another great championship where the winner caught 36 pounds of those beautiful walleye, and Tom Cyborg and Curtis McCormick took home the championship. So hey guys, congratulations. I'm sure that extra money in the pocket and a championship plaque feels pretty darn good. While we're talking about the MWC, guys, they do have open registration for their tournament circuits next year. So if you always wanted to compete against the best of the best, now's your chance. There's open slots. So pay a little money and go chase them walleye and sauger against the best of the best. The Spro Frog Only tournament happened this past weekend, and I wanted to touch on this not only because it's a tournament I've always wanted to do. I found it always unique how it's a tournament where everyone is at a fairly level playing field because you can only throw one bait, and that's a frog. So that was on Lake Gunnersville, as it almost always is. And first place was brought home by James Bean and Kelly Markle. And they caught 18.8 pounds of those greenheads, those largemouth bass. So congrats to you guys. And an unbelievable event. 336 boats showed up to toss around a frog. And I think that just shows an example of how much people love those topwater blow-ups. From there, we are going to go over to the East Coast, where Bassmaster put on their last kayak tournament. And Josh, sorry if I butcher your last name, buddy, Krenko won with 194 inches of brown bass out there on the Tidal River. So I can't begin to express how much different it is to fish from a kayak than a boat. It's so hard. You can't maneuver very well. The wind's always blowing you. You don't have a trolling motor. There's no, now there is spot lock thanks to some new technology, but it's just a whole nother game, and it's catching on. Mike Iaconelli was in this tournament. He had a top 20 finish. So you're seeing some names get into this kayak fishing, and it's just growing and growing. Now, last week we talked about the college bracket that was going on last week. Well, that wrapped up. And we do have a new collegiate champion. So I want to say a huge congrats to Easton Fothergill from Montevallo University that beat Tucker Smith, who I said was going to be pretty hard to beat. Yeah, he made it to the championship like I thought, but he did get beat. And Easton, I mean, what a fairy tale ending. I hope you guys can hear more about this, and I hope Easton joins us on the show, because I just want to take 1 minute to tell you guys what this man went through. Not only did he beat in the championship round, probably the hottest collegiate fisherman there's been in the last 2 years, but in the semifinals, he barely made it through because he lost a crucial fish. By the way, that crucial fish he lost was a smallmouth that he caught on the championship day with the Ned rig in its throat that he lost on it. So, I mean, talk about God just lining things up to make sense. It just, when it's your time, it's your time. And he didn't even think he was going to be able to fish this tournament because a little more than a month before the event, he had to have emergency brain surgery. I don't know about you guys, but if I had to have emergency surgery for anything, fishing would be probably one of the last things on my mind. But all he was worried about was is if he could fish this event. And he was able to, and the stars aligned, and he won it. So, Easton, I mean, let's make a movie about it, man. I mean, what an incredible story and what an incredible tournament. I hope to talk to you soon about that. Congrats, buddy. Look forward to seeing you at the Bassmaster Classic. I wanted to touch on the Opens because we are down to our last Bassmaster Open for the year that's going to take place in a couple days after this filming's done. They are down in Florida, and for 10 individuals, their life is going to completely change. For you guys that don't know, the way you qualify for the elites, the way you become a pro is through the Opens, and they're going to take the top 10, right? And in that top 10 right now, 8 of the top 10 are under 30 years old. So maybe it has to do with that forward-facing sonar or technology, but fishermen are getting younger. Competitive tournament fishermen is getting younger. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have high school and college fishing now. These circuits are raising tournament anglers. It's teaching you how to prepare, how to utilize your time. Tyler Williams won with 41 pounds, throwing a jig, and he was just one of the top three finishers that was 21 years old. So we had a 21-year-old that won it, a 21-year-old that came in second, and Trey McKinney, our buddy down in Southern Illinois, 18 years old, came in third place. All three of those, by the way, not only came in the top 3 in that event, but they're all sitting in that top 10 to qualify for the pros. So we got individuals that are just having their first legal drink that are qualifying. And then we got Trey McKinney, who's still sipping on milk, that's going to be fishing against the absolute best of the best. So guys, I mean, good luck this weekend. Shout out to my buddy Logan Parks. I know you're sitting right there in the qualification. So guys, good luck. And to anyone that wants to check that out, check out Bassmaster.com. They'll have all that going live, including the weigh-ins. All right, everyone. Well, that's about all I got for the news this week, but make sure to check out MidwestOutdoors.com for our calendar events so you can find all what's going on in the outdoors. And, of course, join us every other week because we're going to be bringing you what's important in the outdoor industry. Now, guys, be patient for a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back with the fishing reports as I'm joined by Brian Partag.
Midwest Outdoors Magazine helps you enjoy the outdoors, giving you the best information on where to go, what to use, and how to use it. With fishing maps marked by the pros, nature notes, in-depth interviews, and much, much more. Your subscription gets you 10 big issues of the best in fishing, hunting, and the great outdoors. Plus, Midwest Outdoors Digital Edition gives you dozens of extra articles. Sign up now at MWOMag.com. That's MWOMag.com.
From the company that brought innovation to the ice fishing world with their advancements in LED and glow technology, now brings you a new eco-friendly biosilicone bait that is infused with Terabyte, a proprietary solution comprised of amino acid, omega-3, and pheromones that will generate more strikes, which equals more fish. For more information, visit FishDaddyOutdoors.com.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Hey, look at this. We are back, and we are joined by someone that had to listen to a high school Jim O'Neill yammer about bass fishing. Brian Partag. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, Jim, how are you? Good to see you, man.
Thanks for joining us. You know, it's
always.
So listen, I was scrolling on the phone, and I seen you catching a lot of bass in the Illinois rivers.
Yeah, it's been pretty special. You know, growing up in Marseilles is where I've spent a lot of my time as a youngster, and now at 35 years of age, it's hard to believe that I have almost 20 years of experience on the Illinois River. And when I stop and think about that and seeing it where it started from and to see where it is now, the Illinois River is actually in really, really good shape. So Anna, my girlfriend, she's my team partner, and we've had some pretty two good, really amazing tournaments on the Illinois River here lately.
Back about 10, 15 years ago, I was spending a lot of time on the Des Plaines, Kank, the Illinois, and they've always had largemouth and smallmouth. However, it has always seemed like either you need a mixed bag or the greenheads to win. But I've seen more brown bass, which is common in the fall. But what's been going on there, and what's been leading to some of the bigger bags and stuff?
Still the same way. In the spring, your largemouth will always play, especially in the Des Plaines River. The Des Plaines with the Des Plaines and Kankakee and the DuPage, that's the Three Rivers area. Largemouth, that is great habitat from them. The weights have been outstanding this year. And then something magical happens always in the fall. You have the Kankakee River starts playing for smallmouth. And then obviously the Illinois River, these bigger than average fish start coming up there, and they normally, you don't see them any other really part of the year until the fall. And this has been going on for a while now. This is not something that just, happened overnight. Even the local guys that have been fishing for a long time, you always saw those better than average bags start showing up out of the Illinois River always in the fall. It seems like from end of August, you start to see it a little bit, but then it just starts getting better September, October, all the way to November.
And so here we are in October. So that fall transition's happening. Everyone's been telling me the feed bag's on here and here, and I'm seeing it firsthand. So these fish are starting to grow a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you were just saying that in one of your podcasts and about the belly, and that really is what's happening right now. Our water temps are dropping. It's ignition for those fish. They know that winter is coming. And the other side of that is now when the water temp's falling like that and they're eating, well, their metabolism, it's their weight's holding. So if that water stayed warm and they were eating as much as they are, their metabolism, they'd be burning it. But now they're holding it. So that's where you see, obviously, that weight really starts sticking to them. And yeah, it's amazing. I mean, right now it's a fun time to be out there. You can catch them on spinner baits, swim jigs, swim baits, top water. There's always a top water bite. It seems like if 2 days, we do have cold fronts this time of year also. That's why the water temp starts dropping. But if you get a couple stable days after a cold front, that's when it's like that third day, that top water bite shines. And we always seem to get one of those days in October, like we had that, you're in the 70s, upper 70s, 80 degrees air temperature, and that is going to be a whopper plopper top water day, and it's a lot of fun.
Speaking of the bass, that's what you're usually chasing, but when you're throwing those whopper ploppers, sometimes you might catch a pike on these rivers, and I'm sure when you're cranking or throwing swim baits, you'll run into a walleye or white bass or such. What else is moving on the river? Because you spend so much time out there, I'm sure you run into them.
On the Kankakee, you're gonna probably run into some walleye. You're gonna catch some catfish and things of that nature when you're chasing them brown fish up there. And the Kankakee is well known as a walleye fishery. I mean, the farther you go up the Kankakee, just the better it gets. And then down in the Illinois, we run into a lot of white bass. That is probably the primary. We do catch some sauger, we do catch some walleye, catch some drum and some channel cat. And but I can't stress enough, man, the river is getting healthier. I've really seen that in the Des Plaines. You've got to see it throughout your high school career. The vegetation, it's really, that has changed, how much that's changed, not even for just the Des Plaines, but all the way up to the Cal-Sag. You get like Calumet. You've seen these fisheries change, and it's because a lot that has to do with just the water is getting so much cleaner, and this vegetation that's coming into these rivers is just cleaning it up, the habitat big time for these fish. So yeah, right now in the Illinois, you're with our water temp, we're at like 64 last Sunday. So it's just going to keep falling. And really that white bass run really starts like in the mid 50s. So it's a lot of fun. Through the whole Star Rock area. It's well known. People travel from all over to come and catch these white bass. So it's right around the corner. It's going to start happening.
I appreciate that. And I know I'll want to get on the boat. Maybe I'll be hitting you up, hey, Brian, let's go catch some white bass.
Hey, it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, I'm obviously I'm a serious tournament angler, but I do enjoy the off season where I can go and catch other species of fish. It really is a lot of fun. And Anna, again, my girlfriend, she just loves the fish. So if there's something that, if the bass aren't biting, she's ready to go catch something else. So it's a lot of fun with her as always. So
Well, tell her we'll put her on a salmon. We'll show you guys how to catch those.
Oh my gosh,
big,
you'd have a blast.
those big fish. Well, hey Brian, if anyone wants to check you out, follow your tournaments or anything like that, where should they follow you at?
Yeah, thanks. On Facebook, Brian Partek Fishing, and then Instagram, same thing, Brian Partek Fishing, and YouTube, I'm chasing little greenfish.
Well, hey, I
That's
hope
it.
for some more big green fish in your live well this upcoming year. And Brian, thanks for joining us, everyone. That's Brian Partag. And we are here with my buddy Joe, all the way up in the North Woods on Lake of the Woods. What's going on, Joe?
Jim, I'll tell you what, it's fall fishing at its finest, baby. It's as you know, it's transition time. The leaves are changing, leaves are falling. We got some cold nights. It's happening.
So those fish are starting to look like me after the 5th grade. They're filling up a little bit.
Well, I'm not going to comment because I'm getting a little bit bigger than I'd like to. But no, I tell you, as you know, fall fishing, the fish put the feed bag on, and Lake of the Woods, it's the walleye capital of the world, obviously, with all due respects to other great walleye fisheries. But it's an incredible walleye fishery, and that's really what most people are after. Yep, we got incredible muskie population, and right now the muskie heads are up amongst the islands in the very north part of the lake, up at the northwest angle, and just sliding over the border into Ontario. And they're casting, they're jigging, neck down areas, and of course they're trolling cranks right now. October is a great time to troll cranks and to do that sort of thing for muskies. But they're after muskies. The majority of folks though are always targeting walleyes on Lake of the Woods, and right now there's a lot going on. For listeners who maybe don't know Lake of the Woods, I like to break it up into 3 parts because it's big water. The first part is called the Rainy River. The second part is Big Traverse Bay, and that's a great big open water of Lake of the Woods. That's 30 miles by 25 miles, east-west. And then, of course, that little tip that sticks up into Canada called the Northwest Angle, and that's where the 14,552 islands of Lake of the Woods begin. In fact, it's the northernmost point of the contiguous U.S. So there's 3 very different areas to fish, and we have resorts on all of them. Right now in the Rainy River, we have something called the annual run of walleyes, the fall run. And what that's set up by is the fall run of emerald shiners. So the emerald shiners are coming from the lake, and they're starting to run up the river. And of course, whenever you got big numbers of shiners running anywhere, you're going to have walleyes close behind. And it's kind of interesting time of the year. When you look at the Rainy River at night, you'll see these lights on the end of the docks. And what resorts and bait dealers are doing is they have a net, like a big umbrella net, that basically sits about 3 feet under the water. And they have a big light that goes just about a foot over the water. And what happens is those minnows will come over and get attracted by that light, and they swirl in a clockwise, rotation. You'll get millions of them. And what you do is when they're really running, you got a great big handle. When you pull down on that handle, the whole light net and everything comes up, and that's where they get gallons of minnows, and they dump them out into their tanks. And of course, they use those. They sell them in the fall for live bait. But shiners are hard to keep alive. What they'll do is they'll freeze them and use them for the rest of the whole year. They use them for frozen shiners for winter and for spring and for summer. So that's going on right now. And of course, the walleyes are close behind. We got people that are jigging them in the river. We got people that are pulling crankbaits and catching them that way too. We actually have about 42 miles of navigable Rainy River from the mouth of the Rainy River that dumps into Lake of the Woods all the way up to Birchdale, Minnesota. It goes through Baudette and it meanders this way. Small river. People can use a small boat if they want to because you can easily tuck out of the wind, and there's not a lot of big waves that get created in the Rainy, just small. And it's tradition. All right, that's the first part. The second part is Big Traverse, and water temps are still pretty warm on Big Traverse Bay. We've had unseasonably warm weather in Minnesota this fall so far, and walleyes are starting to go to their fall haunts. But I mean, our charter boats are still hitting the big lake. A lot of boats are. There's big schools of shiners out there as well, and of course, the walleyes are getting schooled up. We're still catching walleyes, pulling cranks and drifting spinners, believe it or not. But jigging as the water cools is coming on strong. One thing about Mother Nature, even though you have unseasonably warm temperatures and you have some warmer water than would normally be taking place right now, you still have Mother Nature kicking in because the days are getting shorter. And that kicks the fish and the minnows and everything else into that whole routine that is part of fall.
That's kind of how that fall feed bag happens and why those fish get so big, because those bait fish get together and school up first before the other fish winter together and school up. And I love to hear that. So the toothy critters, you got the walleye and the muskie we've talked about. Obviously, the pike are mixed in there too.
Yeah.
Giant pike.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Hey, I like them when they're over 40. Okay. It's like a muskie then at that point. What about the panfish? What do you got for some panfish?
We get big jumbo perch, big. I mean, over 15 inches, and they're not the kind of situation where you're going to go out and catch a whole bucket full. It's more one of those things where you catch them when you're fishing for walleyes and saugers. You're going to be catching a jumbo. You'll pull up what you think is a walleye or a sauger, and you pull it up, and it's like, holy smokes! Look at the size of that perch. Normally they're real wide, they're humpbacks, and they're big. They're fun to catch. The other panfish that's really kind of coming on strong, and we don't talk a lot about it. Crappies, and we fish them, throughout the year. Fall is a really good time because they get schooled up, and then of course ice fishing them in the winter, usually up in those island areas. But right now we've been seeing more and more crappies down on the basin and also in the Rainy River. I mean, I was just up the Rainy River a few weeks ago, and we were pulling spinners catching big crappies. When I say big crappies, we're getting them. I mean, notoriously they're 12 to 15 inches. That's the norm. And then every once in a while, you'll get a 16, sometimes even a 17-incher, which 17 is real rare. Don't get me wrong, but we do get them, big black crappies.
I'm partial to the panfish. I feel like I forget about them in the summer and fall, but the second the winter comes back, man, those crappie and perch, they're literally my favorite. They really are. Well, hey, Joe, I appreciate you joining us, and I appreciate the fishing reports. If anyone wants to check out what's going on in Lake of the Woods or see what you're doing, where should everyone check you out at?
You know what? Best place is our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Lake of the Woods, MN for Minnesota Woods. Guys, we thank Joe. Joe, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you once that hard stuff starts getting on the water, all right?
Sounds like a plan. Hey, good luck fishing, everybody.
Everyone, that is Joe from Lake of the Woods Tourism, and he has always got all the information on what is going on up there, what's biting, where to stay. So check him out, and he will for sure point you in the right direction. Thanks for all that information, Joe. I know when it comes to going to a body of water like Lake of the Woods, it's so big, so it's nice to just be steered the right direction. So for Joe Henry of Lake of the Woods Tourism and Brian Partag, the Bridgeford Bass Fishing Pro, thanks, guys. Now, like I said earlier, we hit the road this week for the first ever On the Road Midwest Outdoors podcast. And this week's product review, I'm going to take you guys into the reels that we got to use this week. All right, everyone. As you see, we are not in the product review area. We are at the Giant Goose Ranch in central Illinois, and behind me, we have striped bass blowing up everywhere. So my good buddy Larry lent me these Revo series reels from Abu Garcia. These are the Revo 3 and Revo 5 series. They've been completely redesigned and rebuilt. They feature a stainless steel body. Not only is this super lightweight, but it's also really durable, okay? It's gonna protect the hardware inside this reel. Now, one of my absolute favorite parts about this is this grip on this handle. It's got this gelatin feel to it, but I've noticed all day long that no matter if I'm sweating or I got sunscreen on my fingers, your fingers just stay on it. They don't slip. It's really nice. And it also features the Rocket line management system. So that's gonna make sure the line not only leaves the spool with as little amount of friction to your stripper guide as possible, but it's also gonna make sure when you're reeling it back up, it stacks nice and evenly. And that's important for when you're casting it, because each time it feeds the line out easier if it's balanced and it's level. So you guys will see how that line leaves from top to bottom and how it equals a further cast. So at just $120 price point, guys, this reel is lightweight, it's super smooth, and it can handle these big fish. We've had a few drag screamers so far today, and it has handled it no problem at all. So here it is, guys, the Generation 5 Revo bait casting reels, and I want to show you the two differences between these reels real quick, and then show you some of the awesome similarities that these reels bring to you. Now, on my left hand right here, this is a 7:3 to 1 ratio, all right? Now that means this reel's a little faster. This one's gonna reel up that line real quick, so this is gonna take up 30 inches per turn of the reel handle, all right? So whether it's you're flipping or pitching, throwing a jig or burning a spinnerbait or chatterbait, this is my go-to for that. You get to pick up that line faster, move that bait more, all right? Over here, I have a 5-4-1. Now each turn of this reel only gives you 22 inches. So an 8-inch difference. So this is more for my swim baits, for my big Colorado bladed spinner baits, and my crankbaits more than anything. It allows that bait to stay in the strike zone longer and look a little more fishy. So if you're burning a bait or want to flip and pitch, I highly recommend getting the 7-3-1. But if you're moving a bait presentation style bait, that's that 5-4-1 ratio here. Now I'm going to show you the similarities these both have. Like the spinning reels are, again, made out of a stainless steel body. They retail for $119.99, and they have this sweet non-slip grip on the handles, all right? And that makes these reels awesome as they are. Now, talk about the 20-pound drag that these bait casters have. So you'll be able to fight a fish much larger than a bass if needed to be. The drag is super smooth, whether it's to fight a fish or just to take some line out and set them, because these reels can do more than just catch bass. You could troll with these reels, you could throw some larger spinner baits. Again, you don't want to burn the bearings or the gears out on these reels, so these aren't made to throw your musky baits, so don't be throwing anything too big, but they're made well. They have great internal and exterior pieces. So whether you guys are interested in the Revo 3X or the Revo 5X bait casting or spinning reels, I highly recommend checking them out, and you can go see them at abugarcia.com. Now, time to get back to the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing what's new in the Abu Garcia Revo line. And if you want to check out the other models or anything else that Abu Garcia is offering this year, make sure you check out abugarcia.com. Now, not only is the Giant Goose Ranch an incredible fishery, but I found out how they make their fish so big and so plentiful, and that is by their 5-star fish hatchery that they have going on down there. And we get to pick the brain of the mad scientist himself, Nate Herman. So don't move a muscle, guys. We're going to be right back from this commercial break.
Midwest Outdoors Magazine helps you enjoy the outdoors, giving you the best information on where to go, what to use, and how to use it. With fishing maps marked by the pros, nature notes, in-depth interviews, and much, much more. Your subscription gets you 10 big issues of the best in fishing, hunting, and the great outdoors. Plus, Midwest Outdoors Digital Edition gives you dozens of extra articles. Sign up now at mwomag.com. That's mwomag.com.
From the company that brought innovation to the ice fishing world with their advancements in LED and glow technology, now brings you a new eco-friendly biosilicone bait that is infused with Terabyte, a proprietary solution comprised of amino acid, omega-3, and pheromones that will generate more strikes, which equals more fish. For more information, visit fishdaddy.outdoors.com.
Everyone, here we are at the brand new hub, the restaurant at the Giant Goose Ranch.
Welcome to the Giant Goose Ranch.
Pretty sweet digs you got here.
I'm very excited about it. We opened up early this summer. Memorial Day weekend was our first official weekend, and we have been serving a lot of smash burgers, pizzas, chicken wings, and cheese curds, and ice cream ever since.
Gotta have those sweet treats. I was fortunate enough to be here, I believe, unofficially open weekend.
Before Memorial Day, yeah.
Right, before. Yep, the swim bait event. And the pizzas are pretty delicious, guys. The snacks are great, and they got a gift shop full of all your essentials for camping or fishing here. So it's pretty sweet. But
the pizzas was what I was stressing about the most, because you got to have the best pizza you can have.
And as someone who lives in the Chicagoland area, I like to believe we know a little bit more about good pizza than anyone else, especially anyone from New York, making that clear.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty good pizza. It's pretty darn good pizza.
Hey, I like that. Thank you.
So we're not here to talk about pizza, though. We're here to talk about the unbelievable fishing and outdoor opportunity you have here. Because yes, we are in a building right now with a giant moose, not goose, giant moose above us. But what I come here for is the giant bluegill, the giant crappie, the huge bass, and everything else.
Don't forget about the hybrid striped bass.
Oh, the hybrid stripers. Nate Herman, by the way, anyone, if I haven't even done this yet. Nate Herman, the mastermind behind it all. Plus, I would be wrong to not say you've had a little help along the way too.
Oh, absolutely. So it's a family business. I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and a lot of in-laws, and they're all very hard workers. Most of them are smarter than me. None of them are as good looking as I am, but you know, but they all work good. I have 25 nieces and nephews. That's actually who runs the hub. It's a family business. We all work hard, we play hard, and we enjoy all the families. There's 900 families that are members here, and we enjoy them, you know, having experiences with their families and friends, and that's just kind of what the Giant Goose Ranch is. It's just a big family.
That's awesome. And I feel that family feel. I do. Everyone's watching out for each other out here. Yeah. You know, if you're doing something you might not supposed to be doing, they're going to catch you. But it's such a clean ground, and it offers this incredible fishing. So tell me a little bit how it started. What happened? What made this project happen?
I help people grow big fish for a living. Yep. I started doing that in 2005. And I officially made the business in 2007, Herman Brothers Pond Management. It was at the time. We started cleaning beaches, killing vegetation, and just learning the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the behind the scenes underwater in lakes and ponds. Because everybody grows green stuff, and they call it green stuff, or they call it whatever they want to call it, but they call it anything but the right name. And so I wanted to figure out how to do all that for people. Some places I would go to had really big fish, and some places would have little fish or small fish or no fish. And I was always fascinated with that. So I wanted to learn the nuts and bolts. I wanted to learn everything about fish because I love fishing, I love fish, and I love helping people with that. So was able to make that business and make it go full-time 2007. So we've been going around to properties, doing electrofishing surveys, just helping people better manage their pond. So whether it's figuring out how to keep it looking good, get rid of that green stuff, or maybe even to grow some more green stuff, to grow some better fish, or whatever they could dream up. You know, some people like to swim, some people like to fish, some people like to look at the water, but whatever it is, people love water. So.
People love water, and it's my piece. You know,
absolutely.
It's where we can see what God did with this beautiful world. You know,
it's therapeutic. It's therapeutic in many ways. So, I mean, I'll even give people as simple advice as take a walk around your pond, or make a trail so that you can, or make an outlook. And you wouldn't believe how many people actually follow through with that. Yep. And that could be their favorite amenity, or the dock with a place to sit and hang. But when you can hang and look at water, hang near the water, it's a great way to either start a day or end a day.
We have these ponds, right? And we have how many just on this property alone?
So this property was a strip mine property back in the 40s and 50s. So there's 52 different fishable bodies of water here, ranging in size from a half acre all the way up to 120 acres. And so they're big holes in the ground that eventually fill up with groundwater. So we have then created 600 lakefront lots around all of these lakes and ponds, and people get to camp and just enjoy being close to the water.
So we'll let you plug it, of course, real quick.
I've been plugging it the whole time.
Of course.
Come and stay at the Giant Goose Ranch and eat at the hub. But let's talk fish, because you're passionate about fish. So I like to think that I'm a good fisherman, but I know fish. I know their behavior. I know what they want to do when they want to do it, but I can't cast a bait caster to save my life. And to be honest, I don't even have that desire much anymore, but I am passionate about other people catching fish. And when you combine both of us together, you have the knowledge to catch the fish, let's grow the fish, and let's make something beautiful. So let's talk fish.
All right, let's talk fish. First things first, I come here, and it's like, whether it's, let's say not at the Giant Goose Ranch, right? Because it's hard to choose a wrong lake here. We're out, and we're looking at a bunch of different ponds, a bunch of different lakes. Someone like you, what is something that you see right away if you go to a lake where to start or how to pick one pond over some other ponds?
Well, I'm always looking at the watershed. So is the land that drains into the pond fertile? Like, is it farm ground? Is it good black ground? Is it growing crops? Is it being fertilized? And is that getting into the pond? Or is it a lot of homes with older septic systems all draining into a pond? Sure. You might think, oh, avoid that. I'm looking for it.
Yeah.
So fertilizing ponds is a big deal. When you have fertile water, you're going to have a lot of fish. Doesn't necessarily mean automatically big fish, but fertile water is going to have a lot of fish. Clear water is not actually going to have as many pounds of fish in it that people think. So I'm looking at when I'm stepping foot on somebody's land and I'm analyzing where their water comes from, how deep I think the body of water is based on the terrain, around, how steep the edges are, how gentle it is, what's the terrain all around, and then how many trees are around. Like, are there tree leaves falling in like crazy? Which in some times can be a good thing, but in most people's situations is too much. And it's actually filling the pond in. So I'm looking at all those things of how old does it look? Does the dam look like it's been there for a while? Or is it freshly new? Because you've got to experience this. When you hit a pond that's been stocked and you hit in the years 5 to 10, that's the magic time. So if I'm finding a pond that's been stocked 5 to 10 years ago, that is magic. You're gonna find a lot of 3 to 5 pound bass and a lot of 8 to 10 inch bluegills a lot of times. Because those are the original stocked fish. What happens afterwards, that's when things get all messy.
It varies a bit.
It all varies, and it all swings like a pendulum. And you always want that pendulum to swing in the direction that you want it to go, not what nature wants it to go. Like, if I want to have a pond full of big bass, I want to have tons of little bluegills. I don't even need big bluegills in there. I just want a lot of little bluegills because that's what bass eat.
Yeah. Bass candy.
A lot of little bluegills. And if I want a pond full of big bluegills, I want to have a lot of little bass because I want them to clean up all the bluegills so there's no competition, and whatever does make it grows big and grows big quick. So I'm looking for those things. And then I'm always looking for, like, where's got the habitat? Like, if I see a beaver dam, I'm going there.
Of course, structure.
A good tree. Now, oak trees, when they fall in, they actually leach like tannins and other things into the water. They're not actually preferred habitat for fish or for ponds or for water quality. But if you find any other tree that's going to degrade, decompose quickly, there's going to be a lot of fish around it. That rotting and decaying process really brings them in.
So there's a little tip right there that I didn't know, guys. The type of tree can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go to a new topic. Something I get asked a lot, and I think you can answer this better than I can. What fish are good to keep, right? So, like, if someone wants to take a mess of fish home to eat, we always say protect the big ones or throw back the little ones. Everyone says keep the middle size and stay away from fish when they're spawning. What are some guidelines that you live by to raise good fish? What to keep and what to put back?
So in general, you do want to keep the best genetics in the body of water. Sure. Now, that doesn't apply across the board to fish that aren't going to reproduce in your body of water. Doesn't apply. Right. So there's a lot of walleyes, there's a lot of hybrid striped bass, hybrid bluegills, channel catfish. Those fish, you don't have them in there, muskies, pike, you don't have them in there for their genetics to keep the population going. So the answer to that question is going to be, what do you want to eat? So if it's your body of water and it's one of those types of fish and you want to eat it, ain't no problem with me.
Sure. In
fact, it'd be great. And then let's put a few more of them in.
Let's put more in, yes.
The more of those types of fish we can get people to eat, the more residual business we can get, on a continual basis. And it may sound like a sales ploy, but it actually creates better fishing. And when you're doing it in small increments, which most people don't do unless they've, talked to us specifically about a plan. When you stock fish in small implements like 1, 5, 10, 15 to the acre, it really is not a big expense. It's a very small expense when you're talking about, 10 walleyes to the acre at $3 a piece. You're talking about $30. Sure. If you're 5 acres, you're talking about $150.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
It's not a big expense compared to, everything else in life. Like even going to McDonald's these days.
Everything's expensive, and I'd rather have it out of the lake or out of the sky.
But I'm going to finish answering your question. So there are times when you put fish in specifically to harvest when you want to harvest them. All right, but then when you're talking about managing a body of water that would be maybe not your own or just in general, you're gonna want to eat mid-sized fish that are cleanable, they're accessible. You know, most people, I finally caught a big one, and then that's the one they keep, you know, but if you could actually keep, you know, instead of keeping the 5 biggest, keep the 50 of them in the middle.
Sure.
And you'll end up with more meat, and you'll actually be doing better for the body of water. There is a lot of harvest that, if it does take place, allows other fish to move up in the ranks. And then you have better fishing because you have young, dumb, aggressive fish. And that is always what you're looking for, so that even people like me can catch them. So if they can be young, dumb, and feed with reckless abandon, we can catch those fish. But as soon as those fish have been caught once, twice, 3 times, now they get hard to catch. Now they're actually thinking, am I gonna get caught, or is that real food? Now they're not growing really at all, or as fast as they should be or could be. So at the end of their life, they're not gonna be nearly as big as they could have been. So there's a good degree of harvest that, when it goes on, can be a beautiful thing. Now, anything can be abused, anything can be over-harvested. That's a generalized statement for you.
You were telling me earlier off camera, you don't always have to catch and release, because sometimes that can be detrimental to the body of water depending on what you want out of that lake.
Totally, and it's more so in private bodies of water that don't get fished a lot. Catch and release can actually be a very detrimental thing to it. You are educating those fish, they get harder to catch, they're not growing nearly as big anymore, and it just leads to basically a stunted situation that you've created. If you'd have just left it alone and not fished it at all, you wouldn't have created the stunted situation that is happening. I can see this scenario play over and over again, okay? So a lake has been trespassed on for years and years and years. Whoever owned it didn't care. Everybody went in there, and they pretty much kept whatever they were getting. You know, they had no skin in the game. They're keeping fish, and it's putting out big fish.
Yep.
Then the big hotshot lawyer or doctor or Midwest outdoor, you know, camera guy, or, you know, they buy the lake. Yeah. They kick everybody out. They follow all the catch and release that they read about in all of your guys' publications and all of the, you know, things of catch and release, catch and release. They do all that. And they have great fishing the first year. The second year, it gets a little worse. The third year, all they're catching is like bass about this big. And then the fourth year, they call us up and say, we've done everything right. We did this, 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 this. We kicked everybody out, and this is the scenario we're at. Now, I'm not necessarily saying let every trespasser come in, but if they would have kept on the harvesting thing, they could have kept with a lot more, you know, 3 to 5, 4 to 6, maybe even a 7-pound bass here and there. But when you get too many, none of them end up growing nearly as big as they could.
That's why we're talking to Nate, guys, because he's given us this information, because things aren't always as they seem from the surface. Sometimes you got to dive a little deeper. So that's about what fish we're taking and what we want. Now let's get back to the fish doctor, the fish daddy. We're gonna have to teach you about fish daddy baits a little bit, all right? But that's for later.
Is there actually a fish daddy bait?
Oh, everyone at home knows about fish daddy baits now.
I've never heard of fish daddy baits.
We're gonna let you know, because this guy is the fish daddy. He is growing these fish nonstop. They're getting shipped out every 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're growing them, grading them, and shipping them out.
So, earlier, you guys are gonna see what we did. We went and checked out the fish earlier, but before we go out,
touring the hatchery ponds is kind of fun, isn't it?
It was fun.
You get to see everybody's future trophies just swimming around yay big.
Before we look at them, tell me a little bit about the hatchery process from start to finish.
We grow fish. Obviously, fish are born in the spring. We grow them all throughout the year. We stock them May, June, July, August, September, and you just keep grading off the top for what you need. But then,
not to stop you real fast, but grading. Not everyone knows what that means.
So I don't know what Fat Daddy, was it Fat Daddy?
Fish Daddy.
Oh, Fish Daddy. So I don't know what Fish Daddy is, but you're saying people don't know what grading is?
People don't know what grading is.
So grading is, not all fish grow the exact same, you know, they don't grow the exact same length, width, girth at the exact same times. Some fish are shooters and they just grow real quick, and some fish just grow nice and steady throughout their life. Well, we like to grow them, you know, like 5 inches is a good size. We like to get fish to 5 inches and then get them out the door. it's profitable. We don't need to hold on to them any longer. But when we have 5 inchers, we have fish that are the exact same age that are also 3 inchers. For my pond, I want the best of the best of the best. So if we're grading out, if we're seining a pond, collecting all the fish in the pond, they're all the same age, and I've got 7-inch fish and I've got 3-inch fish, I want to stock my pond with the 7-inchers.
Sure, of course.
Because I know that those fish have the best chance, the best genetics, the best aggressive traits to grow the biggest and the fastest. Even though you have a great genetic fish from, like, let's say you're breeding a 7-pound female, not all of her offspring are going to, she's going to have, let's say we're going to get 10,000, 3-inchers out of that fish. I only want the top 1% from that particular fish. I want the best of the best of the best. And when you keep doing that, over time, you're creating something that's even way better than just what's natural,
Right.
So in a pond, a lot of times they're closed settings. There's no new blood entering the gene pool. Stocking and bringing in new blood or new fish, it's a very integral key part to the pond management equation, and it's often overlooked by everybody. Well, why would I stock fish when I already have a bunch of fish? They just expect a fish to breed with a fish, and it doesn't matter. Well, genetics is important in everything you do, any animal, any plant. Genetics matters, and you want to breed for the traits that you're going after. So there are actually ponds where we don't want to grow big bass.
Sure.
So if you say, Nate, I want to grow 2-pound bluegills in my pond. Yep. I don't want you to have a bass in there over about 13 inches long.
Because if it gets too big, it's going to eat them bluegill.
Yeah, and I want to overstock the bass. I want to stock a stunted strain and the runts. And I want them to top out at 13 inches. And if we get it wrong and you do happen to grow some bigger, you just take them out when you catch them.
Gotcha.
So there are different ways to stock fish to grow giant bluegills or giant bass or big catfish or the hybrid stripers or the crappies or whatever it is.
So it really comes down to, like, if I'm remembering this right, back in like 5th grade, right, we learned about the pea pod, the Mendel experiment.
Yeah, you'll never be smarter than you were in 5th grade.
No, never. And so you're trying to get that pink flower, right? You got your whites, your reds, your blue, and you're putting all the genetics together to try to get that finale project.
And me with crayons or paint, I always end up with brown.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank God you're making fish and not art. But guys, at that, before Nate gets carried away with his crayons, we're gonna bounce out to the hatcheries that we stopped by this morning and see what these fish are doing out there.
Hybrid bluegills.
Yeah.
And so the most aggressive ones will literally be ready to harvest in about 6 weeks. Okay. So we'll actually seine the whole pond, and then we'll take the grader boxes and run them through the grader. So the bigger ones that we need, because these all go to the urban fishing programs in St. Louis and Chicago.
Really?
All summer long. So we take 5,000 to 10,000 a week all summer long.
So these are going into the forest preserve lakes of Cook County?
Not necessarily the forest preserves, but it's like the park districts.
Okay.
For like urban fishing programs, so kid fishing clinics, DNR fishing clinics. So we will take these every week, all summer long somewhere. And so we take them out at 5 inches, so they don't all grow at the same pace. So you'll still have some in here that'll only be this big. Mm-hmm. And then you'll see like the one you just caught on that bare hook,
right?
Because of that that reckless abandon we were talking about. All they know is to see something move to eat it, they'll do it. Most fish will do that once.
And then they start
fish
catching
will do
on.
it twice. Hybrid bluegills will do it about 5 times, which is why they're great for the fishing program. And so we'll seine them out, we grade them out, we get the 5 inchers out, and then we feed up the next batch, and we just keep doing it all summer long. So
timeline wise, they're how big, it takes how long until you get them in here?
A 15-inch bass, how old is it? Or an 11-inch bass, how old is it? Is it 2 years old? Is it 4 years old? Is it 10 years old? More than likely it's 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, because in Illinois, the average adult bass gets to about 11 and a half inches long, and that's it. They don't all make it to 15 inches. A very small percentage makes it to 15 inches, and a smaller percentage of that makes it to 18 inches. but a good percentage of them make it to 11 inches. If they're an average of 1.5 inches, the ones that are making it to the 4.5, 5 inches are probably the 2 inches. And they literally, 10% of them will get there in about 6 to 8 weeks on this heavy feed program. Now, they don't get to do this out in nature because they have to watch out. They have to not get eaten. And then they have to have the available food. So a fish will eat far more often than what it gets the opportunity to in nature. Yeah, so like these two would be the bluegills, and the next one over is actually largemouth bass. So that next one, we raised 30,000 largemouth bass in that third one. And we've already graded all, and so we can take the bass from fry, and then I can bring them up here, put them in this pond, and right now, you know, here we are in October, when we harvested the first time, September 15th, and we were already pulling 5 to 8 inches out of there. All right, so if we would go sample, like do an electrofishing survey on some of these lakes,
Yeah.
the bass that were born this spring are only gonna be 3 inches. It's a big head start in life. So stocking a fish that has such a big head start in life is one of the keys to growing a fish big, because in most bodies of water, the limiting factor on largemouth bass is their first year of life. If you are wasting the first 365 days and you're only growing this big, whereas in half the time, 180 days, we can get them to this big, it's a big difference when they're going into lakes and ponds. That's one of the big reasons why to stock bass in your lake or pond, because we can grow them so much quicker. Now, they don't all grow that big. You know, it's not like all 30,000 of them are gonna get to 6 inches long in 180 days. Mm-hmm. So then, those other ones that grow to 3 inches, even in a great environment, I don't want those fish. So when you have a chance to buy, you own a pond and you have a chance to buy a fish in the fall,
Yep.
a 3-inch bass or a 6-inch bass, where you can pay $1.25 or $3.25, buy the $3.25 one, because this one's a runt. You don't want the runts. Well, there is fish farms all across America, and we do it too because people really want them. They want to buy a cheaper fish.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not going to be, it's not going to be the big one. It'd just be like a regular one. So there's a lot to fish genetics, their habitat, their water quality. You can see that going. Now, it doesn't mean every lake or pond needs that, but in here we have so much oxygen demand because there's so many fish. So the fish needs genetics, it needs a good start in life, it needs food, and then it needs the ability to get the food without getting eaten.
Yeah.
You can create that, you can create the perfect pond.
Create the perfect pond. All right, so real quick, we got bass, catfish, and bluegill up here right now?
Yeah, these two are bluegills.
Yep.
And then the ones over there, we can go check to see how our bass are doing. They're feeding right now.
Yep,
You
I
can
see 'em.
see.
Yep.
Those are super fun. They're super
Sure.
aggressive. Just a pure northern strain largemouth. So in here, we start this with 30,000.
30,000 fish.
And we'll harvest about 27, 28,000 out of it. So it's a great return.
Yep.
So we do about 30 different counties in Illinois. So the SWCD fish sales. So these would be graded out as the 3-inch size.
Okay.
And then, you know, like we were talking earlier, genetics. It's a fine fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually bigger, stouter, thicker than what you're gonna get naturally.
Sure.
But it's not the top end producer. We've already taken 10,000 5 to 7 inchers and shipped out. There's still, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 inchers in here, but a lot of these guys will be graded off as the next size.
And even when they're this small, you can tell a difference on the belly, right? Some will feed heavy, some will be thinner. Yeah.
Yep.
So what is it that you look for besides, is there anything besides length, or do you kind of have in your head 1/2 inch per month, or what's?
It's not necessarily about a 1/2 inch per month, but with largemouth bass, everything about managing largemouth bass is their relative weights.
Gotcha.
Okay, so a bass so long should weigh so much. All right, so when you're managing your own body of water, we can get that little guy back in.
Let's go.
But when you, I mean, that's just like $2.50, you know what I mean?
Right, got to keep the money in the pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was like, let's put them in and then we'll talk. Okay, so relative weights with bass is the biggest key in managing. So like you can tell the whole tale of the forage and the habitat and just the overall conditions for the amount of bass in your lake based on the relative weights. An 11-inch bass should weigh 11 ounces. Now, if your 11-inch bass are weighing 9 or 10 ounces, we know that they are not growing anymore. So if it's not weighing 11 ounces, it's not getting any longer. Now it may be, it might hit 11 ounces for 1 to 2 months of the year, might have plenty of forage, but then the other 9, 10, 11 months, it doesn't. So it might just grow real slow. But if it's 11 inches and it weighs 13 ounces,
you got something going.
I know that that's not just a little spot in time where it has everything it needs. That fish has what it needs, and that fish is gonna keep growing. So like 14 inches should be 23 ounces.
Gotcha.
A lot of times if they're 18, 19, 20 ounces, that's it, they're done. But if they're 24, 25, 26 ounces and they're 14 inches long, they're growing fast.
Nice.
So we don't want fish to just grow like this. We want them to grow like this to make you happy, to make me happy.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I'm happy by seeing what's going on with these hybrid bluegill and these bass. What else you got to show me?
We got channel catfish. We had 23,000 channel catfish in there. We took about 10,000 out last week. But let's go see how they're doing.
Let's go check it out.
So yeah, there's probably 13,000 of them left. We started these out actually these started in June and they were about 2 inches long in June.
2 inches long in June. Let's see what they're looking like now. Look at this pretty little fish here.
So that would be actually a smaller one. So we've graded out 8 to 10 inches, 6 to 8 inches, and then 4 to 6 inches. And so what's great about catfish in ponds is people say they don't reproduce in ponds.
Sure.
Well, first, with catfish, a lot of people are scared of their whiskers.
Doesn't hurt you.
Nothing to be scared about their whiskers, okay? But the thing to be scared about is right here, especially when they're this size, it is sharp as a needle. Here, here, and here. So whenever you're grabbing them, like I'll even grab them like this, but I am not pinching it, you know? So everybody's like, how do you grab the catfish? Well, you just do it very gingerly. So a lot of times like that. But these guys are very sharp, and there is a little bit of, not necessarily venom, but like
bacteria that burns.
It burns, you know? Like, So let's see if you can catch another one. And I'm gonna talk about catfish because they are a great pond fish. What's great about them is they actually don't recruit. So people say, oh, they don't reproduce in ponds. Well, that's not true. They have eggs, they lay their eggs, they fertilize their eggs, and their eggs will even hatch. They don't need running water. They don't need what people think they need. They just need the absence of bluegill and a largemouth bass, because baby catfish are so dumb that they just stay in a ball the moment they hatch, and one little bluegill can come up. So when you have muddy ponds, or the absence of, like maybe a bass kill or a bluegill kill, you'll get a catfish spawn, and you'll be inundated with catfish.
Yeah, I've definitely been out on lakes before where I've seen that big, dark, they look like little tadpoles, but they're little catfish.
Yeah. And so what's great about them is you don't have to worry about them over reproducing. So with largemouth bass or bluegill, you got to worry about too many of them in the pond. With catfish, it's pretty much you got what you put in. Now, a mistake people make with catfish is they'll put them in their pond once, they will grow them really nice and big, they'll catch them a few times, and then they won't stock any more for probably 10 to 15, sometimes 20 years. Well, catfish, if you want to have good catfish fishing, you want to stock them every 2 to 3 years, and you want to catch them and pull them out and eat them. So if you put 100 catfish in, you never take them out, and the average size is 8 pounds, that's 800 pounds of catfish, and you're not even really catching them very often because they are so smart, all right? And you're taking up 800 pounds of biomass in your pond. But if you put in 100 catfish and you take out, just say 20 to 30 a year, and then you're replacing them every 2 to 3 years, now your average size is going to be more like 2 to 3 pounds. You'll still have some 8 to 10 pounders, but your average size is going to be 2 to 3 pounds. So now you're only wasting 300 pounds of biomass, and you're catching them, because catfish, the first 2 times, you can catch them on anything. Even you can catch them.
Thanks.
Okay? But then after that, you're really hard to get.
Nate, appreciate all that information about these hatcheries and what you do to raise these fish. We're gonna kick it back to the hub to talk more about the genetics of these fish.
Fish is in my blood, man. Let's talk.
Let's talk fish. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed those little fish as much as I did, because they're not gonna be little for long.
Doesn't take them long. It doesn't take nearly as long to grow fish as you think it does. So you can literally grow a bass in 18 months, you can grow it over a pound.
Okay.
And when you got the right scenario, the right conditions, man, they grow.
So guys, that is just a little bit of the fish encyclopedia that this guy's got up in his head. And Nate, I want to thank you for the time here.
Thank you.
And thanks for having us down at the Giant Goose Ranch.
You're welcome. I'm excited.
For Nate Herman and all the family members that run the Giant Goose Ranch, thank you. I'm Jim O'Neill. We're going to kick it out to a commercial, but don't leave because we got more of the Midwest Outdoors podcast coming up right after this.
Midwest Outdoors Magazine helps you enjoy the outdoors, giving you the best information on where to go, what to use, and how to use it. With fishing maps marked by the pros, nature notes, in-depth interviews, and much, much more. Your subscription gets you 10 big issues of the best in fishing, hunting, and the great outdoors. Plus, Midwest Outdoors Digital Edition gives you dozens of extra articles. Sign up now at mwomag.com. That's mwomag.com.
From the company that brought innovation to the ice fishing world with their advancements in LED and glow technology, now brings you a new eco-friendly biosilicone bait that is infused with Terabyte, a proprietary solution comprised of amino acid, omega-3, and pheromones that will generate more strikes, which equals more fish. For more information, visit fishdaddy.outdoors.com.
Wow. Well, thanks, Nate, for all that information. So if you guys want to raise your own fish or stock your lake or pond, make sure to give the Herman Brothers Lake and Land Management a call, and Nate or any of his brothers will steer you guys the right direction. And just like that, that is the end of episode 3. So I want to give a huge thanks to Brian Partag, Joe Henry, and the mad scientist himself, Nate Herman. As always, guys, if you haven't, check out fishdaddy.outdoors.com because it's time to start stocking up for that ice fishing, and we have new stuff on the website right now. I'm Jim O'Neill, guys. This is the Midwest Outdoors podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't, check out our social medias, and you know where we'll be in 2 weeks from now. So until then, guys, tight lines.